In my playbook tonight, President Obama met with his top commander in Afghanistan face-to-face today for the first time. The President and General McChrystal met for 25 minutes in Copenhagen on board Air Force One before the President headed back to Washington. The White House says the meeting was part of Obama's ongoing review of America's strategy in Afghanistan and that no decisions were made. For more on all of this, let me bring in MSNBC military analyst, retired Army Colonel Jack Jacobs. Jack, what's the temperature of this meeting? This is the first time these two men have ever met. They really don't have any working relationship. Today was the first day in a pretty critical issue. What do you think?
Well, let me tell you what I think. I usually don't believe in coincidences, but consider this. Yesterday in London, General McChrystal gave a public speech in which he said that he thought that the vice president's idea that we focus our attention on counterterrorism and more or less leave Afghanistan to the Taliban was a very bad idea. Whoops, and not surprisingly, the very next day he's summoned to Copenhagen to have a brief meeting with the President of the United States before Obama came back to Washington. I think the two are very closely related.
Okay, well, with that, if the president were to choose the strategy that Vice President Biden is talking about, do you think McChrystal would go along with it, or would he resign?
Well, I think it's likely that under those circumstances, if the president decided not to cut the baby in half and, in fact, give General McChrystal none of the additional forces that he wanted, and furthermore to focus his attention on al-Qaeda, as the vice president suggests, and by the way, as the Secretary of State thinks is a bad idea, I think that General McChrystal would have a hard time staying on board. I think he might resign.
Well, if the president is going to commit 40,000 more troops, number one, it means we're going to be in for a long time. Number two, it's going to cost a heck of a lot of money. But most of all, this would be a continuation of the Bush policy, would it not?
Yes, it would. But, of course, it is the policy that the President of the United States said he wanted to follow when he was talking about it during the campaign. I think he's changed his mind. And one of the things that's changed his mind, I think, is the congressional delegation who's told the President of the United States, it's okay for you to send more troops to Afghanistan for a long period of time, for it to cost a lot of money, and for us to have more casualties, and maybe with not the result that you really want in the United States, because you don't have to run for office again until 2012. We're running right now, and I think that he has to yield to the Democrats and some of the Republicans in Congress, many of whom are very unhappy with the direction that the president's been taking.
And Jack, is it the trap of every president that military commanders always want more forces? I mean, I'm hearing that on the radio. I'm seeing it in editorials, that it's just the school of thought of a general to think that he can win a war. Yet when you look at Afghanistan, nobody's ever won there before. And yesterday, General Petraeus said we're not going to make the same mistakes the Soviets made when they were in Afghanistan. Well, isn't adding 40,000 more troops doing exactly what the Soviets did?
Well, it might. And it depends what kinds of troops they are. And if they're special forces and special operations forces, they're focused on specific areas to get rid of the al-Qaeda and Taliban, to empower the local leaders. It might work. But as you suggested, it's going to take a long period of time, a lot of money, and a lot of patience from Americans. If all we're going to do is send lots of troops over there, you can bet they're not going to be successful. And I think this is the problem that the president's confronting. And you're absolutely right about generals. Look, anybody who asks a general is going to get the same answer. How many troops you want? I want them all. There is no such thing as too many resources. The real test is what you do with them. And I think ultimately the President of the United States is going to come down, likely, in the middle. He's going to give some troops for a period of time, but is going to demand that there be lots and lots of improvements in the situation in Afghanistan.
And when do you think he'll do that, Jack? When do you think he'll do that?
Well, he's already stretching it out. I think it's going to take a couple of weeks before he gets all his ducks in order and makes the announcement.
Okay. MSNBC military analyst, retired Army Colonel Jack Jacobs. Jack, thanks so much tonight.
Thank you, Ed.